Hello, this is Daniel Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide, and I was very interested in last week's episode of Inside Star Citizen about missions. But it made me wonder why we see some features added while others, which we might be tantalizingly close to, aren't added. Oh, and by the way, cognizable is a real word. It means capable of being known. It's the same root as cognitive, cognizant, and cognition, and several other words. So I guess my mission in these videos is to render the inscrutable cognizable. Now, large organizations, as they evolve, develop into teams. And you can see this clearly on the Progress Tracker page that Star Citizen has a lot of different development teams. This is good because they can focus on what they are good and efficient at, as well as their management. And thus, features that are entirely exist within one team happen fast and well, but features that require two or more teams, sometimes only a little bit from the other team, can prove extremely difficult since they have to be managed by a member of management shared by the two teams. And this might be a very high level indeed. This, I think, is why the server meshing, for example, is going so slow. It is a feature that combines a range of teams to work on, which is why they need summit meetings and just to get the ball rolling. But first, let's talk about the things that did discuss in the Inside Star Citizen segment. The first, trespassing. Probably the most impactful and definitely the most anticipated were the changes to the trespass system. This has been a thorn in the side of game players for a long time, Star Citizen. Troublemakers would rush up the ramp of your ship, and you couldn't do anything about them without getting a crime stat. But hey, most likely they, not caring about getting a crime stat, could shoot you the second you were out of the armistice zone and weapons were active. It also presented a problem with piracy and borders. We've had this sort of system for a while with bunker missions, but the challenges were adding it to something that moves, and the other edge cases, or zones inside of zones, ships inside of ships. So our best template for understanding it is to look at how bunker mission trespassing works. You finish a friendly mission, you get a trespassing warning that you must leave within 15 minutes. After that, they can shoot at you without getting a crime stat. And an open question is whether this form of ship trespassing alone will get you a crime stat for trespassing in the second degree, which is a pay-a-fine type of crime, or whether the only consequence of this ship trespassing is being attackable. Another question is whether if you, as a ship trespasser, are freely attackable by the ship owners, are you equally, as a trespasser, able to freely attack the ship owners who are able to attack you? In other words, are our ships now completely weapons-free zones? I am guessing that if you are in an area under a jurisdiction, that you will still get crime stats for aggravated assault and homicide by shooting the ship owner. Wouldn't it be weird if being a trespasser immunized you from crimes that you would be charged with if you weren't a trespasser? Either way, this is a change that will hugely impact for emergent gameplay. Have a ship, and you now have a way to set up your own attack and defend scenario to play out. It will also be a great difference in defending against piracy. The one thing that's worrisome to me about this is the change that went along with this change, and that is to give you no notice at all when somebody has entered your ship. That pushed the possible scenarios of what would happen more towards being shot unawares from behind, which is the least fun scenario for both parties. This is 2023, and I am already getting notices on my cell phone when someone is stepping too close to my car, and our starships a millennia from now won't have sentry mode. Intruder detection is a standard in science fiction.
Intruder alert will suffice.
Go with the classic. Understood, sir.
And you believe you have difficulties?
Maybe have it so that we can add our own detectors and traps to our ships as sort of a middle ground between the two positions. Next was the Ninetales cover-up mission, and I like this for several reasons. The ability to gain reputation with the Ninetales helps round out the scope and utility of the reputation system. Also, having the ability to, within a career area, to take on tasks where time is of the essence and time where it is not, adds variety to game motivations and game session feelings, flavors. I have two questions about it, though. If we scrape off the hull before the authorities show up, do they then leave us alone to salvage components and cargo, or do they shoo us off either way? And the second is whether we will be able to see reputations become mutually exclusive. Will building reputations, say with these cover-up missions with the Ninetales, limit us from gaining certain levels of rep with the CDF or other opponents of the Ninetales, or vice versa? Particularly in Pyro, it seems like it shouldn't be a case where you could be on great terms with everybody. Then the new Orison platforms. I remember thinking that when they added mercenary missions to the Siege of Orison platforms, that they would soon wind up in a situation of it being a blocker on their running Siege of Orison as an event. And CIG apparently learned that as well. In addition, adding additional platforms, essentially the UGF of Orison, is a great idea. But Orison is missing something else. They should take some of these platform assets and replace the gardens on top with a maze of pumps, tanks, and pipes and disperse them around Orison as gas mining outposts. And with resource specialization by system, obviously, these platforms will be the primary sources of gases like hydrogen, helium, chlorine, fluorine, and such. That makes much more sense than getting gases from an airless moon, doesn't it? Next, the Consignment Missions. When I first saw Consignment Missions on the roadmap, it really wasn't clear what they were about. Now with the new description, it is much more clear, and I'm glad that they are both lawful and unlawful Ninetales versions of it. In the lawful version, you are cleared out the guards, steal from them their codes for their private locker system, and then take their stuff. Pretty straight-up pirate stuff. In the lawful version, you kill the Ninetales, steal the codes from their private locker system, and take their stuff.
There's nothing to explain. You're trying to kidnap what I've rightfully stolen. Perhaps.
Now, all this would be just security post Korea missions at a new location, except for the new Antioch system for scaling waves of opposition and reward, because this means that the missions will automatically scale with the size of party you bring. More forces means more waves of opponents that you can allow the mission to scale to. I suspect that these missions will be popular with small teams bringing a ship that includes a respawn-capable medbed, so injured and defeated players can be returned to the fight quickly. These teams will likely subspecialize with attackers, healers, loaders, and people whose job is to use the rover to deliver loot back to the ship and bring recovered players back to the action, potentially being a great team gameplay. But more than that, this system will test one of the most difficult traits for people to exercise, particularly game players, and even more particularly groups of game players, and that is knowing how to quit while you're ahead. Finally, the Barge Chase is an interesting implementation of a free-for-all location in which you will simply purchase knowledge of the location, and then based on your reputation, you will either be having the Ninetales helping you and expecting help in return, or Crusader Security helping you and expecting help in return. This means, of course, that Ninetales rep and Crusader Security rep will have to be mutually exclusive. Either way, it promises to be a wild FBS combined arms location, and I'm looking forward to it. All of this is exciting, but brings us around to the other thing that has been on my mind, and it is something that I feel that we are tantalizingly close to, but not really on the roadmap because it isn't a strictly mission feature, but sort of mission-related, and that is the exploration career path. Early on, exploration was found through a poll to be the career path that more players were interested in than any other. Yet, despite big developments in mining and salvage career paths, there really isn't an explorer career path. And yet, as I said, we seem tantalizingly close to it. Why do I say that? Because the core of a Tier 0 exploration gameplay needs three things. The first is a big area to explore. Stanton may be just one star system, but it, particularly with the Aeron Halo included, represents trillions of square kilometers of space in scale. Second, something worth finding, and we already have those. Valuable rocks for mining, profitable wrecks for salvage, cave entrances, rivers, and other natural features, and so forth. And then, finally, some way of marking and trading the locations. And we are already at least 3/4 of the way there, with that with service beacons. All that is needed is a way to make the beacons be persistent, which should be a piece of cake with long-term persistence, and a way to charge for obtaining the mission rather than paying for taking the beacon, which we also have for other types of missions. And boom, done. Tier 0 exploration career game loop. Find something valuable, tag it with a description and a price, and continue on. Pure exploration career game loop. Is that all we would ever want from exploration? Of course not. But what part of Tier 0 was unclear. But starting with those basics, you would want to go further tiers where more categories of things to find. Ease of use features, such as automatically attaching the data from the rock or wreck to the mission, or maybe having some other features, such as not being able to place markers on top of other explorers' mark or on top of game mission locations, but still just building on that Tier 0 structure. So why don't we have it? Well, I think the issue is team boundaries. Which team's job would it be to do that last little bit? The career gameplay folks or the mission feature folks? You get the idea. In fact, I'm mostly talking about it here to give CIG a little prod. Whoever's job it is, that we're very close to something very beneficial to the game. Somebody carry it across. Now, for an update on our ship giveaways, first we have the 10,000 subscriber thank you giveaway for the LTI Hull C, the colossal cargo container carrying craft to begin away when the sea goes live, now on the roadmap for 3.20, and the big annual IAE ship giveaway for the winner's choice of the Galaxy Complete, the massive modular mining moving medical machine, or the Banu big box bargain bazaar known as the Merchant. 1 entry per video for both giveaways. Just be a member and be entered automatically, or be a subscriber and comment somehow including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is any word that shares the same root word as cognizable. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Daniel Raymond for Ray's Guide.